All right, guys. I'm going to talk about a pretty in-demand topic right now as to why some coding boot camps are closing. If you haven't been following along with this, recently the Iron Yard closed, as well as Dev Bootcamp. Some of the sort of founders in the industry. Someone even told me Coders Foundry, but I haven't seen any articles about that, so I don't know if that's true. But so we're going to focus mainly on the Iron Yard and on the other one. All right, so one thing I want to say is that they're not going to tell you why they closed. So a lot of what I'm going to say is what my personal feelings and just sort of a kind of a understanding of the market. And first and foremost, I think a lot of these schools were just trying to do good things, and I think they did a lot, right? So apparently, Iron Nerd's been around for 4 years. You can read this right here. It talks about how they're basically, this is their last cohort for whatever the campuses are, and I think they had like 14 locations. They had a lot of locations, which I think might have been one of the reasons they failed, to be honest. So you can see these are all their locations. What was that? 3 plus 12, 15 locations. So all in pretty big cities: Atlanta, Austin, Dallas, Nashville, Las Vegas, Indianapolis, Tampa Bay. That's the one I go to all the time, and I go to meetups at the Iron Yard, so it holds kind of a special place in my heart, and I'm sad to see it go. But I think what you're seeing right now in terms of these couple boot camps closing is a combination of a few things. I think one, some bad business practices, and you're saying, well, what are you talking about? Well, I can only speak to the Tampa Bay location, but a lot of these are big cities, and at least in the Tampa Bay, they put it right in downtown. Now, if anybody knows anything about rent, an overhead for the size of a boot camp, if for the rent, is massive if you put it in downtown versus out of downtown, right? And so you have this massive amount of rent you have to pay, and that has to come off the top, right? So that would probably be my first criticism of this from a business model of, if you're going to have a boot camp, it doesn't need to be in downtown. Pull it out to the city and throw it in the middle of nowhere. One thing that I think Dev Mountain does very well is they have a very beautiful campus that I saw, and it was in Provo, Utah. Now, if they wanted to take the Iron Yard idea of it, they would put it in downtown Salt Lake City and have their rent be 2-3 times as much. But other than that, I want to talk about the sort of industry's been changing a little bit, and a couple of these schools haven't been changing with it. I think they went down the wrong path that I see a lot of college programs go down, which is they think people are here to get educated, and in reality what they're here to do is get skills to get a job, and there is a difference. And sometimes, and I'm not saying this is specific about the Iron Yard, but I'm saying in general, I think you're going to see some other boot camps closing down as well, because they're not willing to change their curriculum, because that's hard, man. You got to find new teachers, you got to remarket it, you got to resell it, and you're willing to you have to it's another leap of faith, right? And as I've seen boot camps still teaching Ruby on Rails, and there's nothing wrong with learning Ruby on Rails. There is a job market for Ruby on Rails. But as JavaScript's been going up like this, Ruby on Rails has been going down like this, and JavaScript has passed in the amount of jobs and it being in demand. And that's really your core market here, is going and gaining the skills to not only be a developer, but be a developer that can get hired quickly. A lot of people who go to boot camps, they are college grads who have a degree in uselessness most of the time, right? So no disrespect, right? Or just somebody's trying to get their life together, and they just want to change their life, right? They want to make more money. They want to be able to have health insurance. They want to do good things, and they want to get not only educated, but they want to get educated in something that's going to get them a job. And so you have a lot of boot camps out there that are teaching skills that, yeah, there's a job market, but is it the job market that's going to get you in the door the fastest and make you a good amount of money? And some of these boot camps aren't willing to adjust their curriculum all that much. And kind of the third and final factor for me anyhow, and I wish this wasn't the case, but I think it might be, is that you have colleges getting into the coding bootcamp space now. At one time, I looked at potentially when I'm going back to finish up my CS degree, for instance, online. But before, when I was deciding that, it there are I considered perhaps going to a coding bootcamp to fill in some of the self-taught issues. Just fill in some of the gaps, right? And get something on the education aspect on the resume. And I decided against it. But I learned that a lot of colleges in the area, state colleges, universities, they are actually creating their own boot camps, usually a little bit longer, usually on the 6 month end, and for about the same price, about $8,000 to $12,000, depending on where you're going. And they're teaching similar things, and I think that's attracting a lot more people that maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago they didn't have an option. They said, "I want to learn something new." And learn in-demand skills, and the college that they went to wasn't teaching that, and so they had to go. They had to take a little bit. It's a little bit more of a gamble, right? A lot of people think coding boot camps is a little bit risky, kind of a for-profit money grab sort of thing. That's kind of the negative aspect of it, but that's what a lot of people see them as. And I'm not saying that's correct. I actually think it's not true at all. But when you have something like a institution that is, an accredited institution and a respected institution, a lot of students might think it has more validity. And 6 months, you have twice as long to learn something than you had in 3 months, and it's not as intense, and you might, for some people that might work better. But I think those sort of three factors of maybe being new to the market and not necessarily understanding that you have to keep your costs low. And it's all hypothetical, right? This is just what my personal belief is, and I'd love to know what your guys' are as well. I know that I believe the Iron Yard or Dev Bootcamp got bought out, and then someone closed them, the owners closed them down, probably because they were either making no money or they just didn't want to continue it on, whatever it may be. But what I'm trying to say is I don't think this is going to be an isolated case, guys. I think what you're going to see is some of the worst ones that are out there that are teaching outdated stuff, or maybe not even outdated, just stuff that there's a market for that. Like in the Ruby on Rails, there's developers out there, and you can be. We're talking about generalities, so don't think you're not going to be a Ruby on Rails developer. What I am saying is that bootcamps have to understand who their core audience is, and it's people who want jobs. That's what it is. They want jobs. They want them now. You don't do a 3-month boot camp because you want a job 4 years later, right? You do a 3-month boot camp because you want a job 2 weeks after you get done with that boot camp, and keep grinding it out. Maybe longer than that, but you guys get the idea. And then you have all these colleges coming into the mix. It's a little bit crazy, and I think that might be some of the things that have led to these campuses closing. And I think there's going to be a few more. Now, One thing I can say, if you guys are looking for a boot camp, as you know, I am sponsored by Dev Mountain, but one thing I want to say, and I don't want this to be taken as me shitting on the Iron Yard, because that's not really what it is. It could have just been a bad cohort, but I did go to a graduation day of the Iron Yard to see. I wanted to see, because I've seen a couple projects from Dev Mountain, and I've seen a couple from other places, and I have to say that, and you could, I'll include a link to the two most recent ones. These are two students from Dev Mountain that reached out to me. It's not like Dev Mountain sent me the best of their students. These are two that one I actually tutored before he went into the boot camp. And I showcased their projects in the beginning, about 2 or 3 of them. And they made impressive projects. They made a copy of CodePen. They made a copy of Google Sheets. And then they made a copy of the Nike website. They were great websites. They were functional. They were fluid. Everything about them was beautiful. I can't say the same about the Iron Yard for the graduation class I went to. And I was really stunned because I had always been a big fan of boot camps, and seen Matt engineers truths from his Dev Mountain projects. They were really well done as well, all 3 of them. Even though the APIs all got closed down and now he doesn't have any projects. But they were beautiful. They were well done. I would say of the about 20 grads, I was impressed by about 2, and coincidentally, those were 2 guys who had CS degrees. They were 2 guys who wanted to get some more skills and maybe enjoyed the education aspect and took the program. The other 18 or so really had very unimpressive projects. And I'm just talking about visually. The ideas, some of them were creative but just implemented poorly. And it was really sad to see. And I don't know if maybe there's just a bad location, bad cohort. It happens, right? Every cohort's different. You have a good one, you have a bad one. But if you're looking for a quality one, I really couldn't recommend Dev Mountain more. They are expanding. They just opened up a new one in Phoenix. I've had the luxury of traveling to Provo, Utah to see the campus in person, which isn't in downtown Salt Lake City or anything like that. So they're keeping their costs low, which is why they can provide free housing so that you can immerse yourself in there with a bunch of students. But so if you're thinking about going to a boot camp, my suggestions to you is to do your research, make sure the skills they are teaching are in demand, and compare it. And a lot of times it's unfortunate because you're not coming from a software background, right? If you were, you weren't going to a boot camp, right? You may not know that Ruby on Rails jobs have been going down and JavaScript have been going up, and the boot camp you've been checking out is a little bit too lazy to update their curriculum or whatever it may be. Or they may even give you an option, and no options. If you're going to a boot camp, just give them good curriculum. But I'm sad to see them go all the same, man, because I think it's all good stuff. I mean, they were putting on meetups all the time. And I was going to one a month, and they were all everyone who worked there was very nice and cordial, and I can't say anything bad about them at all. The location was beautiful as well. So I'm sorry to hear that the Iron Yard is closing, and I'm sorry to hear that for the students that are in there as well, because that's got to be really you really have to be feeling a little bit shitty to know that you just puckered up $11,000, and knowing that hey, in a month this place is going to be closed down. I'm not going to be able to probably reach out and get any career support. I'm not going to be able to go back and commingle with these old teachers and ask them to review my resume and things like that. So I feel sorry for them, and I don't know if maybe they offered some of them a partial discount or anything like that, but they are, including career support. Good for them. Look at that. Good for them. Good for them. I like that, man. 'Cause that was what I was feeling bad for, but hopefully this is real career support and not just like, send us an email. They're going to have someone in India responding back to an email about it, but I'm sure they're going to do good stuff. But I'm sorry to see them go. I think there's a lot of coding boot camps out there. You just got to do your research and find the one that works for you. I know that I know that I can confidently recommend, having met the people who run Dev Mountain behind the scenes and all that sort of stuff. I can recommend it. But as always, guys, my girlfriend is home now, so it's time to wrap this video up because she needs to see the love of her life. I will see you guys in the next video. The giveaway, we'll give away a course. I don't have my list in front of me, but there'll be some sort of React or Ionic course. Use the keyword, pour out one for the homies, the Iron Yard. That's the keyword. I'll see you guys next time. Join the Facebook group and Patreon. Bye. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Special thanks to our sponsors, Dev Mountain. If you're looking for a coding bootcamp where tuition and housing is included, definitely check them out. Appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.